legality of the sport and use of paintball markers varies among countries and regions. In most areas where regulated play is offered, players are required to wear protective masks, use barrel-blocking safety equipment, and strictly enforce safe game rules. Equipment main article, paintball equipment players with woods ball equipment, paintball equipment used may depend on the game type. For example, woods ball, speedball, or scenario on how much money one is willing to spend on equipment and personal preference. However, almost every player will utilize three basic pieces of equipment. Paintball marker, also known as a paintball gun, this is the primary piece of equipment used to mark the opposing player with paintballs. The paintball gun must have a motor or hopper or magazines attached to feed paint into the marker, and will be either spring-fed, gravity-fed, where balls drop into the loading chamber, or electronically force-fed. Modern markers require a compressed air tank or CO to tank. In contrast, very early bolt-action paintball markers use disposable metal 12-gram 0 point for 2 ounces CO to cartridges, also used by pellet guns. In the mid to late 1980s, marker mechanics improved to include constant air pressure and semi-automatic operation. 6, 7, 8. Further improvements included increased rates of fire, carbon dioxide CO2 tanks from 100 to 1,180 milliliters, 3.5 to 40 U.S. fluid ounces, and compressed air or nitrogen tanks in a variety of sizes and pressure capacities up to 30 per thousand. KPA 5000 psi. The use of unstable CO2 causes damage to the low-pressure pneumatic components inside electronic markers. Therefore, the more stable compressed air is preferred by owners of such markers. 9 paintballs pellets. Paintballs, the ammunition used in the marker, are spherical gelatin capsules containing primarily polyethylene glycol, other non-toxic and water-soluble substances, and dye. The quality of paintballs is dependent on the brittleness of the ball shell, the roundness of the sphere, and the thickness of the film. Higher quality balls are almost perfectly spherical, with a very thin shell to guarantee breaking upon impact, and a thick, brightly colored film that is difficult to hide or wipe off during the game. Almost all paintballs in use today are biodegradable. All ingredients used in the making of a paintball are food-grade quality and are harmless to the participants and environment. Manufacturers and distributors have been making the effort to move away from the traditional oil-based paints and compressed CO to gas propellant to a more friendly water-based formula and compressed air in an effort to become more eco-friendly. Paintballs come in a variety of sizes, including of 13 millimeters, 0.50 in, and 17 millimeters, 0.68 in. 10 mask or goggles. Masks are safety devices players are required to wear at all times on the field to protect them from paintballs. 11 the original equipment used by players were safety goggles of the type used in labs and wood shops. Today's goggles are derived from skiing. Snowboarding goggles with an attached shell that completely covers the eyes, mouth, ears, and nostrils of the wearer. Masks can also feature throat guards. Modern masks have developed to be less bulky compared with older designs. Some players may remove the mouth and or ear protection for aesthetic or comfort reasons, but this is neither recommended nor often allowed at commercial venues. A good paintball mask will protect the eyes from vision distortion caused by fogging, glare, and scratches. Players who do not wear a paintball mask can suffer serious injury. Additional equipment commonly seen among frequent players, tournament participants, and professional players include pods and pod packs, the most common addition to the above mandatory equipment. P. Pods are plastic containers, usually with flip-open lids, that store paintballs in a ready-to-use manner. Pods are available in many sizes, including 10, 80, 100, and 140-round sizes, with the larger 140-round pods being most common among tournament players. Pods are carried by the player in pod packs or harnesses, which facilitate easy access to the pods during play. There are several designs of pod packs, from belt loops allowing a recreational player to carry one or two extra pods, to harness designs generally designed for either tournament-style or scenario-style players. Squeegee, swab. From time to time, a paintball will break inside the player's marker. When this happens, it coats the inner surfaces of the marker with paint, especially the barrel, which considerably reduces accuracy. While speedball and tournament players generally have no time to clear this obstruction and instead simply shoot through it, woods ball and scenario players generally carry a tool to allow them to clear the barrel following a break. There are several types of squeegee, most of which are advantageous in two of three areas and disadvantageous in the last: cleaning time, effectiveness, and storage space. Paintball jerseys and pants, originally derived from motocross and BMX attire. Tournament players commonly wear special outer clothing with integrated padding that allows the player a free range of movement. Iron, and helps protect the player both from paintball hits and from incidental contact with rocks and hard ground. Certain designs of jersey and pant even advertise lower incidence of hits due to increased bounce-offs and breakaways. In indoor fields, where shooting generally happens at very close range, hard-shelled armor is sometimes worn to protect the player from bruising and welts from close-range hits. Elbow and knee pads, common among outdoor sports, players can choose to help protect knee, elbow, and even hip joints from jarring impact with the use of pads. For paintball, these pads are generally soft foam worn inside a player's pants to prevent abrasion of the pad against the ground. Gloves. Paintball impacts to the hands, knuckles, and fingers can be extremely painful and temporarily debilitating. Outdoors, players are often prone or crawling, which can cause scrapes to the hands. Padded or armored gloves help reduce the potential for injury to the hands. These gloves are generally referred to as tactical gloves, and their purpose is to protect the player's hands while maintaining dexterity. Athletic supporter, also called a jock strap with cup pocket and protective cup. Players generally take care to protect sensitive or vulnerable anatomical areas from painful hits and injury. Then commonly wear an athletic supporter with a rigid cup similar to types used in cricket, American football, lacrosse, hockey, or baseball, while women often wear a pelvic protector and a padded or hard-shelled sports bra also commonly seen in the aforementioned sports. Other paint marking equipment, normally seen in scenario play only and disallowed at all tournaments, other forms of paint marking equipment are sold, such as paint grenades, paint-filled balloons, or lengths of surgical hose. Vehicles, again normally only seen in scenario play. A variety of vehicles have been devised based on go-karts, pickup trucks, ATVs, small off-road vehicles, etc., to create armored vehicles within which players are protected from hits and can move around on the field. Such vehicles may employ a wide range of mounted paint discharging weaponry, hats, taquests, bandanas, commonly worn by all levels of players to protect the forehead from direct paintball hits and stop sweat from running down into the mask. Remote lines used to increase maneuverability. A remote line is a high-pressure hose connecting the fuel tank to the marker, allowing the tank to be stored in a backpack or harness. It is mostly found in milsim, woods ball, and scenario events. Gamma play to players after a round of competitive paintball paintal is played with a potentially limitless variety of rules and variations, which are specified before the game begins. The most basic game rule is that players must attempt to accomplish a goal without being shot and marked with a paintball. A variety of different rules govern the legality of a hit, ranging from anything counts, hits cause elimination, whether the paintball broke and left a mark or not, to the most common variation, the P. Paintball must break and leave a mark the size of a U.S. quarter or larger. Eliminated players are expected to leave the field of play. Eliminations may also earn the opposing team points. 12-13. Depending on the agreed-upon game rules, the player may return to the field and continue playing, or is eliminated from the game completely. The particular goal of the game is determined before play begins. Examples include capture the flag 14 and elimination. 15 paintball has spawned popular variants, including woods ball, which is played in the natural environment and spans across a large area. 16, conversely, the variant of speedball is played on a smaller field and has a very fast pace with games as brief as 2 minutes 15 seconds in the NSL or lasting up to 20 minutes in the PS. Paintball Sports Promotions. Another variant is scenario paintball, in which players attempt to recreate historical or fictional settings. Tournament Hostility Paintball Team tournaments are skill-based competitions. These are often bracket tournaments with 5-person teams taking place on speedball paintball fields. Tournaments such as the NXL hold different events throughout the summer months all over the United States with a range of skill divisions. Other series such as the Ultimate Woods Ball League UWL play tournaments with large teams on large wooded fields. The types of tournaments and applicable skill divisions vary wildly to serve the diverse interest of paintball competitors. The CPPS Central Premier Paintball Series is the leading paintball tournament event in the UK and only hosts tournament-style paintball. Everything is played on sub-air fields, inflatable bunkers on flat grass, and games are timed and scored. Speedball main article. Speedball, paintball speedball is played in an open field that could be compared to a soccer field. It is flat with a minimum of natural obstacles, and sometimes artificial turf is used, especially in indoor fields. The first speedball fields were constructed with flat wooden obstacles staked into the ground to provide cover. This concept was further developed into a number of urban scenario field styles with larger, building-like obstacles for casual play. But speedball itself progressed to using smaller obstacles made from plastic drainage pipe, which offered a more variable field layout and some give to the obstacles for increased safety. This style of play was often referred to as hyperball. Eventually, inflatable fabric bunkers were developed based on common obstacle shapes from previous fields, such as snake and can bunkers, often referred to as airball. The use of these inflatable obstacles both increases player safety by reducing potential injury from collisions with obstacles and allows them to be easily moved to reconfigure the field or to set up temporary fields. Woods ball main article. Woods ball, or bush ball, is a fairly recent term that refers to what was the original form of the game. Teams competing in a wooded or natural environment, in which varying amounts of stealth and concealment tactics can offer an advantage. The term is commonly used as a synonym for specialized scenario-based play, but it technically refers to virtually any form of paintball played in fields primarily composed of natural terrain and cover, such as trees and berms, instead of man-made obstacles. Usually the gamma mode is team deathmatch, although sometimes it is capture the flag, or protect the president, where one player is chosen as the president. The president's team must protect the president. The enemy team must eliminate the president. Scenario main article. Scenario paintball commonly referred to as big games or scenario games. Big games refer to territory control-based gameplay, while a paintball scenario refers to a game where tasks are given to each side at timed intervals. Pioneered by Wayne Dollop, scenario paintball focused much more heavily on live-action role-playing events, elevating their immersion, storyline, and gameplay mechanics above the paintball aspect of play. Many variations and combinations of these games are currently played and are unique to each event and event producer. The game uses the entire venue it is at, combining all normal gaming fields into one large playing area. Popular examples of the scenario format are Paintball's grand finale at Wayne's World Ocala, Florida, Cousin's Big Game in Coram, New York on Long Island, El Survivor's Monster Game just outside Pinckney, Michigan, Invasion of Normandy at Skirmish, USA in Pennsylvania, Oklahoma D-Day in Wyandotte, Oklahoma, Fight for Asylum at PRZ Paintball Picton, Ontario, Battle Royale at Flag Raiders Paintball Kitchener, Ontario, the Sherwood Classic at Sherwood Forest, Lawport, Indiana, and Free Finale at Low Country Paintball Ludoici. Gal events which draws in 100 to 5,000 players and run at least 6 hours of uninterrupted play, most often averaging 12 hours of play in 2 days. True 20 for scenario events run at least 24 hours continuously, the most recent one taking place in May 2019 at Sherwood Forest. These formats vary widely and are frequently historical milsim, movie, or pop culture themed. Milsim military simulation is a mode of play designed to create an experience closer to military reality, where the attainment of specific objectives is the most important aspect of the game. Milsim addresses the logistics of combat, mission planning and execution, and dealing with limited resources and ammunition. Players are typically eliminated from the game when struck by paint, just like in any traditional game of paintball. Milsim is a popular gamma mode also played in airsoft, which is a similar sport to paintball, with the advent of shaped projectiles, such as the First Strike, and the resulting development of magazine-fed markers. A considerable increase in range, accuracy, and milsim realism was gained. Functionally speaking, magazine-fed markers are no different from any other paintball marker, with one exception. Instead of paintballs being gravity-fed from a bulky hopper, which sits above the marker, shaped projectiles, or paintballs, are fed from a spring-loaded magazine from the bottom of the marker. The caliber of both the gravity-fed and magazine-fed markers are the same .68 caliber, and the velocities are also generally the same. The increased range and accuracy of the shaped projectile comes from the higher ballistic coefficient that the shaped projectile has, and the gyroscopic spin imparted onto the projectile from a rifled barrel and fins on the projectile itself. Magazine-fed markers and shaped projectiles have allowed marker designs to more closely approximate the styling and functionality of actual real steel firearms, which in turn has given paintball a better avenue to compete with airsoft in the milsim environment. 18. The dogmig-fed only game, an increasingly popular style of gameplay that forbids bulk loading devices such as the traditional paintball hopper or loader, and under or back-mounted bulk loaders such as the die box loader, max loader backpack, and a GD warp feed. In this style of play, all markers must accept a magazine, greatly limiting paint capacities and creating a type of paintball much more similar to popular first-person shooter video games. Time Trial's a single-player paintball attraction in which participants move through a closed course and shoot at a succession of targets. Runs are timed, and competition among players is through a leaderboard, competing to be the quickest. Zombie Hunt, a static or mobile entertainment attraction. Venue staff are padded up and dressed as zombies. Paintball markers are mounted to a flatbed trailer. Participants are taken on a haunted hayride style attraction towed through the property, where they defend themselves from the zombie hordes with paintballs. Generally, black lights and glow-in-the-dark paintballs are used as ammo. Enforcement of game rules-regulated games are overseen by referees or marshals who patrol the course to ensure enforcement of the rules and the safety of the players. 19. If a player is marked with paint, they will call them out. But competitors may also be expected to follow the honor code. A broken field operators may specify variations to this rule, such as requiring a tag to certain body locations only, such as the head and torso only. 20. There are game rules that can be enforced depending on the venue to ensure safety, balance the fairness of the game, or eliminate cheating. 21 masks on even when a game isn't in progress Virtually all venues enforce a masks-on rule while players are within the playing area. More generally, within any given area of the park, either all players, spectators, officials' masks must be on, or all players' markers must either have a barrel block in place or be disconnected from their gas. Source: to ensure that a paintball cannot be fired from any nearby marker and cause eye injury. Some fields encourage players to aim away from opponents' heads during play if possible. Splatter from mask hits can penetrate ventilation holes in the goggles and cause eye irritation. Close-range hits to the mask can cause improperly maintained lenses to fail, and hits to unprotected areas of the face. Head and neck are especially painful and can cause more serious injury. 22 minimum distance when being tagged. Depending on the distance from where the shot was fired, a direct paintball impact commonly causes bruises. In certain areas and at close range, these impacts may leave welts or even break the skin and cause bleeding. To decrease these risks and the severity of associated injuries, commercial venues may enforce a minimum distance, such as for 0.5 meters, 15 feet, within which players cannot shoot an opponent. 23 many fields enforce a modified minimum distance surrender rule. A player who advances to within minimum range must offer his opponent the chance to surrender before shooting. This generally prevents injury and discord at recreational games. However, it is seldom used in tournaments as it confers a real disadvantage to the attacking player. He must hesitate while his opponent is free to shoot immediately. The act of shooting a player at close range is colloquially called bunkering, and happens most often when a player uses covering fire to force his opponent behind the cover of a bunker, then advances on that bunker while still shooting to eliminate the opponent point blank. 20 for a tap of the targeted player with the barrel of a marker, sometimes called a barrel tag, Murphy, or tap out, is generally considered equivalent to marking them with a paintball and is sometimes used in situations where one player is able to sneak up on an opponent to point-blank range. Hits. A player is hit if a paintball leaves a solid mark of a specified minimum size, often nickel, or quarter-sized anywhere on the player's body or equipment. Some variations of paintball don't count hits to the gun or the pod pack, or require multiple hits on the arms or legs. Most professional fields and tournaments, though, count any hit on a person, the equipment on their person, or even objects picked up at random from the field. A gray area of splatter often occurs when a paintball breaks on a nearby surface and that paint deflects onto the player. This usually does not count as a hit, but it can be difficult to tell the difference between significant splatter and a genuine direct hit. Overshooting. Fields may discourage players from overshooting, also regarded as bonus balling, ramping, overkill, or lighting up, which is to repeatedly shoot an opposing player after he is eliminated from the game. 25. It is also considered overshooting if a player knew the opponent was eliminated but continued to shoot, disregarding the safety of the opposing player and risking dangerous injury to others. Ramping. Ramping is a feature of many electronic markers, where after a certain number of rapid shots or upon a threshold rate of fire being achieved by the player, the gun will begin firing faster than the trigger is being pulled. Ramping of rate of fire is prohibited or sharply limited at most paintball fields. However, it is allowed in various tournament formats with specific rules governing when and how the marker may ramp. 26. Wiping. Players may attempt to cheat by wiping paint from themselves to pretend they were not hit and stay in the game. 27. If caught, wipers are generally called out of the game, and in recreational paintball may be ejected from the field for multiple instances of wiping. Various tournament rules state additional penalties for players or teams caught wiping, such as 3-4-1 calling the wiping player and the nearest 3 players out in PSP capture the flag, or a prescribed number of penalty minutes involved. Non-contact. While paintball does involve tagging players with paintball projectiles, this is generally considered the sole point of physical contact between members of opposing teams. Players are generally prohibited from physically contacting other players, such as colliding with them, physically restraining them, and especially using fists, feet, protective gear, or the markers themselves to hit other players. Fisticuffs in particular are dangerous not only to the participants, but to all players on or off the field. And referees are generally trained to respond immediately and aggressively to stop the fight, and to eject and ban instigators of these fights.
I'm good.
Oh,